Okay, so this is going to be a Cellar review, but it's going to be outside of my Cellar review format because with the background that I usually use on my Cellar reviews on the television is completely white, and that completely fucks up my lighting. So either I do it with a television on the back, behind me that's off, or I just do it like this, like I do pretty much all my other videos. But this is going to be a full spoiler review on Overlord, and to anybody who hasn't seen it, they need to see Overlord. I'm glad I bought it on 4K, even though I can't watch 4Ks right now because I don't have a 4K player or a 4K television. Blu-ray works just fine for the time being, but you know, you need the format. You need the 4K. You need the slipcover. No glove, no love. It's how we roll. No glove, no love. No slipcover. It just ain't the same. Okay. So that's Overlord, directed by J.J. Abrams. Or, I'm sorry, I'm an idiot. Produced by J.J. Abrams. And we are directed by Julius Avery. I'll have to look a little bit more into his films because this is quite quite a bad boy, to say the least. So yeah, you get a cast of people who I didn't really recognize any of them. And it's one of those that, it comes out of nowhere. The trailers look cool. It certainly looks ambitious. It certainly looks like a horror movie that has a budget backing it up, which is really, really nice. And plays with an idea of, an alternate universe on a certain point in time. Because obviously this is dealing with, during World War II in Nazi invaded France. It takes place in France, but like in like a village that's completely Nazi run kind of thing, and then it plays with horrific ideas from there. And obviously, this is going to be a spoiler review. For anybody who hasn't seen the film, go watch the film, then come watch the review. Because I don't know why you're watching a spoiler review where I'm going to be saying what happens in this movie without you have seen the movie in the first place. So this review is hopefully, well, my intention for this video is for people who have seen it. If you don't care about spoilers, here I am. It's a great film. So, the beginning of it, first of all, the whole title card with Overlord, the way they introduced the film, just like a 40s film, it looks phenomenal. You automatically feel like you're in, an old movie kind of thing. Really, really, really good shot with the grains and everything. Looks amazing. And then it throws you into, modern day filmmaking. And with the whole crew of soldiers on the plane in this war zone where there's, shots and missiles and everything flying everywhere. And the tension that they build is so masterfully paced, and the violence and the fear and the anxiety in it is so masterfully executed and played out so smoothly that you are captivated and cannot take your focus off of what's happening in front of you with the viewing experience. Like the attention to directing each and every character. Each and every character feels like their own. It's like you are about to be introduced to literally 20 to 25 guys, soldiers, and every single one of them you feel like is going to be part of the film. Even though they're not, and it doesn't, you're only focused on a handful of them, like the plot wise, like if the plot only focuses on a handful of them, I mean, you still feel like each and every character has their own personality, like the banter and the writing. It's just incredible. It's 10 minutes of a crew flying through a war zone in the middle of the air, and at any moment they can be taken down. Any moment. Like one's throwing up on the floor of the plane, one's hyperventilating. It's just, it really puts you in the mood and the situation of that point in time and that point in the film, and it really brings you into the film. And when the plane goes down and your main character is parachuting down or falling from the sky with a parachute, and the way the camera is like always focused on his face, and he's rolling down, and the camera focuses up and you see the plane blowing up, all the way up there, and then it focuses back down on him falling. Just amazing stuff. Like, it's it's attention to detail that make a film, you know, become a film and become an experience. And the rewatch value on this one is high. Even if you know what's going on and what's going to happen and what's going to come, it's still so much fun through the whole thing, in my opinion. But we will get there. Slow down, Dexter. You're going a little too fast. Does anyone know my name is Dexter? It's not Morgan. I go by Morgan Film Fan because of the show Dexter. Dexter's character's last name is Morgan in the show, and I'm a film fan. That's why my alias is Morgan Film Fan. But yeah, just throwing that out there. So yeah, these soldiers, there's 4 of them that get to the ground, including the captain, and the captain already knows he's gonna die. He's already messing with the soldiers, like the German soldiers being like, hey, you got a cigarette? Seriously? You don't have a cigarette? Because he knows he's gonna, like, he only has another, what, 5-10 minutes to live, tops? So he's just fucking with them, and, they shoot him down, and he knows his fate. And he's, a veteran soldier. He knows exactly what he got himself into and where he ended up. So they fall in this war-torn, German Nazi soldier populated area of France. And there's 4 soldiers that you follow. You got Boyce, which is your main character. He's a cool dude. Then you got Tibet. 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 I think it's Tibet. Is another big one. You follow Jacob, and you also follow this guy named Ford. And I think there's a few other characters, but like I said, I'm more about faces more than names. I do remember that there was 4 soldiers, Boyce being your main one. Boyce and Ford are your main guys, and then there's the other 2 that kind of tag along and help them out. They refer to the Germans as Krauts. That's what they call the German soldiers, as Krauts. I haven't researched that term or word. I don't know. I'm sure it was used, but I'm not very familiar on the term. I've never heard it, so that's a new one for me. But yeah, every time they're referring to the German soldiers, they're referred to as Krauts. And they find this village, and they come across this woman. This woman who lives in the village, and her name is Chloe, and Chloe is French, but also speaks German and also speaks English. So she speaks 3 languages throughout with the American soldiers. A German boyfriend, I guess, who gets introduced, also named Franz, and then her native language, French. And she has a little brother who also gets introduced, and his name is Paul. And Paul is just like a little 4 or 5-year-old kid. And you start to see what's going on in this village, and it's basically completely controlled by the Nazi German army. People are being murdered left and right. People are being kidnapped left and right with no question. It's just a horrifying situation. And these 2 soldiers, Ford and Boyce, they they obviously want to protect this woman. And when this character, Franz, gets introduced, you don't really know what the motive is. Obviously, there's some kind of blackmail going on. Obviously, Franz is a German who is manipulating Chloe to serve his needs, in multiple ways, and I guess he will protect her if she does so. Like that's the vibe I got, but it's complete manipulation and it's complete blackmail. You know, he doesn't obviously give a shit about his own, self selfish, desires or whatnot. And then once Boyce and Ford take notice of this, obviously they want to protect Chloe because they feel a bond for her, and they also want, like, she's got a lot of answers and information that she can give of what the heck is going on, and connections and stuff like that. So Boyce takes it into himself, and I like that, where they're hiding upstairs and they're hiding with Paul, the little guy, and then they witness Franz getting all violent with Chloe, and then Boyce decides to take it into himself to do something about it and come downstairs and threaten the guy. And it's cool how that plays out. So basically, they end up, kidnapping and tying Franz up and putting a sack over his head and keeping him hostage and in the attic and away from, potential harm to anybody that's around. And there's a situation where Boyce basically gets chased by a dog, and he hides in this German cart where there's a bunch of bodies, and then he ends up being taken to this church. And I already mentioned that their mission in the first place was to take down this tower. So before I get into that church situation, their mission is to take down this tower, and they need to do so because they can't get air support without the tower going down. Now, I'm not a military guy. I don't understand military tactics or anything like that. But that part didn't really make sense to me. Like, why would you have to take down a tower in order to get air support? Wouldn't the tower help get air support? Like, why would the air support not be able to do anything until the tower is brought down? I didn't really. I don't get that on a military level or on an army level. On the reasonings behind that, but it is what it is. That's their main mission. Obviously, things change, but yeah, that's basically what they were set out to do. But then they discover this church, like I was saying, and what I was going to get to. And Boyce ends up there accidentally because he hides in this cart, and he gets to this church, and it's basically this whole underground laboratory going on. And this is where we get the whole twist, where these German soldiers are actually experimenting on bodies or people, basically. And what they want to create is the perfect soldier. Like a soldier that's literally invincible because they want to like boost their adrenaline or whatnot. And they're doing all these experiments that are so twisted. You literally get like people in cocoons, bodies in cocoons with liquid and like these like sack kind of things. There's a scene, it really reminds me of A Cure for Wellness, who I can't pronounce his last name, but it's Gore something. It's directed by Gore something. He's the same guy who directed the Pirates of the Caribbean trilogy. He directed the film called A Cure for Wellness. There's a lot of scenes when it comes to the laboratory shit that remind me, that look straight out of that film. And yeah, like he's walking around this place. This place looks like, hostile, like a hostile wet dream kind of thing. Like people are just being experimented on like crazy. There's just a head and a spine of a woman, and she's still talking, like just her head, which reminds me of the film. I'm always going to be referencing to other films, by the way. Reminds me of the film The Brain That Wouldn't Die, where the woman's head is in like this glass jar, and the guy's trying to like find her a new body and whatnot. This chick's head is just connected to some machine, and like it's like her head and a spine, and she's like, please help me. It's so crazy. It's so bonkers. I mean, this guy just like landed in hell, literally. You thought, you think he lands in hell when he's fallen from the plane and landing in this like Nazi infested French village. Yeah. Then they get to the underground of what's going on in this Nazi infested French village and what's actually going on with these like crazy mad scientist, big glasses wearing white lab coat people, and it just goes absolutely, absolutely insane, but in the best way. This film is so much fun and so kind of different. Not to say that the idea is unique, but how they play with it is very unique, and I love that. I loved it. So yeah, Boyce ends up getting away from there, and he ends up getting back to the house where Chloe and Ford and their captive Franz is tied up, and he ends up saying like, you know what, this shit's going on. We're like, our we have a mission to do. Yeah. No. Fuck the mission. Fuck the tower. We got other things to do right now, and they have to. They they want to take, like, Boyce especially wants to take care of the situation as fast as he can. So he's trying to he's trying to get answers from Franz, and then Franz obviously ends up tricking Jacob. I'm pretty sure his name was the guy that thinks he's dead when he's hanging over there, and unties him because he literally thinks he's dead, collapses to the floor. And then he kind of kicks him a few times, and it turns out that Franz is not dead at all, and shoots him, and then Jacob ends up dying. And because when Boyce brought back a sample of a drug that they were using over at the lab, decides to try it on Jacob because he's like, what's the worst that can happen? He's already dead, right? Yeah. In my opinion, that was a very stupid thing to do. Just inject the guy with a drug that you already saw what was going on in the lab. Are you really gonna put that shit in the dead guy? Like, what? Like, you don't expect some weird things to happen? You don't expect some, something from John Carpenter's The Thing to go down? I don't know. I wouldn't do it myself, but hey, he did. And then Jacob turns superhuman and takes like 15 bullets to go down, and I love it. I love the subtle humor in it too. What the director played with, like when he comes alive, he's just like, and he's like, I feel great, and then he starts going, ape shit and evolving too quickly. I love the evolution of Franz too when it gets there. Because Franz, as you know, ends up kidnapping Paul, the little boy, and it turns into a search and rescue kind of mission. And Franz's whole transformation when he injects himself with like 3-4 different things, and he has like half a face. It's like he almost looks like a Terminator, basically. And then once they get to the church again, and it turns into this whole brand new mission that they kind of landed on with these freak experiments and freak monsters that they, have absolutely no idea what's going on with. It's great. It's, what else can I say? Ford. I love how I keep having to look at my notes for names, man. Ford, like, how do you forget Ford? Ford. How hard is that of a name to forget? Anyway, Ford decided to take upon himself to, well, actually, no, he was injected by Franz, but he takes it upon himself to use his, his, I guess, curse to his best advantage and defeat Franz, which is really cool, and then stay behind and allow Boyce to, escape with Paul and completely destroy the entire lab with C4s, including himself, who is infected, because there's a good quote where Boyce says, our side doesn't need this either. Like, the American side does not need this power either, because this power is impossible to control and is pretty much impossible to be used for any kind of good. So absolutely screw this. Let's leave this buried and forgotten. There's no good that this kind of power is going to bring to humanity in any way, good or bad, like whatever side you're on, whether you're good or evil, nobody can use this power specifically for good. Which makes you question, how many things were discovered and then purposely buried and forgotten by good people so that nobody could get their hands on them and do bad things with those elements. Makes you wonder. Obviously not as far-fetched as this, but, I'm sure there's been some shady shit that goes on that people just don't know about in history and today. You know, you never know. You never know. And I love films that, like, play with ideas like that. And, yeah, it's friggin' great. Like, they go in there for, a standard war mission, and they land literally in hell. And the effects, I'm pretty sure they're both practical and CGI mixed, are so good. It's filled with gore. It's filled with great performances, like I said, from a cast that I'm not familiar with, but phenomenal performances. Probably half, if not more, of the film is subtitled. If you have a problem with that, I don't know what to tell you, but it is. So, there's that. And yeah, that's what I got on Overlord. There's a good scene where Chloe is being all badass with a flamethrower. Chloe's great in here too. The actress who portrays her, just her speaking 3 languages is, I love languages. I'm a connoisseur of languages. I mean, I would learn as many as I can if I had the time, but I've got 2 down, so at least I don't just speak one. And yeah, that's basically Overlord in a nutshell. Kind of in a nutshell. I'm already going over 20 minutes. Subscribe to Morgan Film Fan if you like my film reviews, or if you like hearing my voice. I will be back with more. This is a phenomenal horror action film, I will say. Check it out. If it's streaming, if you can find it, if it drops on Netflix, I recommend it. So, until next time, I'll be back with some more reviews. Have a good night and cheers.